Hi everybody, my name is Hayden Alexander Butcher. I am a Reformed Christian and I've been a member of Community Presbyterian Church since 2018. You're listening to Hangin' Vibe, which is a podcast that I record in which I talk about my church and life in general, and my favorite pastime, which is listening to music on Spotify. In each episode, I will talk about 4 to 5 artists that I like, and I'll spotlight up to 10 songs from each artist. I'll try to, at least. I could talk about way more than 10 songs from some artists, but for the sake of time, I decided this season I'm going to try to limit it to 10 songs each. So we'll see how that goes. But since this is a new season, we finished up the summer and we're now in the fall, I want to start by spotlighting the new Chillhop album. Chillhop Music is a record label that puts out lo-fi hip-hop music, and each season they release an album called Chillhop Essentials, and this season they released Chillhop Essentials Fall 2024. And I use the songs from these albums in the introduction to my podcast, so you'll hear these songs in every episode, and I just thought I'd take the first episode to spotlight each song that I plan on using. The first one is called Looming by artists Byrocratic and Dotlights. This is the song I'll use in the intro and the outro. I love this song. It's definitely stood out to me immediately when I was listening to the album. It's very upbeat, and I feel like it has some IDM influences. It's a lot more electronic, and I just think it's a good sort of upbeat track to use for the intro and the outro of the podcast. So you'll hear this a lot, and it's a great song. The next one is called Frontiers by Philanthropy, or Philanthrope. I don't know how it's pronounced. It has an E instead of a Y at the end. But this song is just a smooth, chill piano, and feels like you're sitting in a park watching leaves fall in the morning. Just has some good fall vibes. This song will play in the background when I recap the morning sermon from each week. Each week I will try to recap the sermon that from my church the previous Sunday, and we do 2 services, one in the morning and one in the evening, so this song will play when I recap the morning sermon. The next song is Over the Hills by Leave with 2 V's. This song will play when I recap the evening sermon. It's got just a nice Rhodes piano loop and just some pleasant sounding saxophone. I love saxophone. I love jazz and music with jazz influences, especially in the fall, so you'll hear a lot of jazzy music this fall. So the saxophone is great, and it just has some really pretty flute sounds in it. So really good song, this one. And the next one is called Over Skies by Aves, and this song will probably play when I just talk about any other things that happened in the week. I don't often have a lot to say about my week, but if I do, I'll use this song when I do that. And this one's just got a neat, choppy kind of synth bass line. So again, some more electronic influences, and just a really nice groovy track. So yeah. So as I said, each week I will recap the previous Sunday's morning and evening sermons. So in the morning, my pastor, Jonathan Cruz, he's currently preaching through 2 Samuel in the morning. So this Sunday, it was a rather long passage. He preached on 2 Samuel chapter 2, verses 12 through chapter 3, verse 39. So almost 2 whole chapters. But the story that takes place over these chapters is kind of a united story, so he decided to preach the whole thing. And this is the story of Abner, Saul's commander. Saul has died at this point, so Abner is kind of taking control, and he made Ishbosheth king, and David is king of Judah. So there's kind of a division, Saul's kingdom versus David's kingdom. At the beginning of chapter 3, we read that David's kingdom is growing stronger and stronger, while Saul's kingdom is growing weaker and weaker. Part of that is because Abner, who was on Saul's side, was insulted by the king that he proposed, and is like, forget this, I'm going over to David's side. So he goes over to David's side and ends up, helping David in a way. But Joab, who is David's commander, he is suspicious of Abner, so against David's wishes, Joab ends up killing Abner, partially because out of selfish reasons, because Abner killed Joab's brother, so he's getting revenge on that. But despite the fact that David's kingdom is being threatened by, potential suspicious activity by Abner, along with internal threats from Joab disobeying him. Despite that, and despite the fact that David himself is not a perfect king, example being that he has like 6 wives at this point and just keeps collecting more, which is something that the king of Israel was supposed to not do. Despite all that, God's kingdom is growing, and I think the takeaway from that is that God uses wretched people to further his kingdom. If we feel like, I'll speak for myself, if I feel like God can't use me because of my sin and because of my shortcomings, I should just look at people like Abner and David, who God used to further his kingdom, even though they were imperfect people. So in the evening, Jonathan is preaching through 1 Corinthians. This Sunday he preached on chapter 10, verses 23 through 33, which is a follow-up to the previous sermon about eating food that's been sacrificed to idols. In the previous sermon, he talked about how the Corinthians ought not to eat food sacrificed to idols, because even though idols are imaginary and have no power, there are demonic forces behind the idol worship, which Christians ought not to partake in. But he clarifies a little bit in this sermon and says that it's not for the sake of your own conscience that you ought not to partake in it, because if your conscience is clean and you don't feel guilty eating food, if you know it's been sacrificed to an idol, you shouldn't eat it, but you shouldn't go out of your way to interrogate, where you got the meat from and was this sacrificed to an idol. You shouldn't go out of your way to find out, but if you do find out, you shouldn't partake. But it's for the sake of the person you're eating with. because you don't want to condone or seem to condone that type of worship. And of course, it's a little bit tricky to apply that because we don't really have, we don't really have, sacrificing food to idols in our culture. So how do you apply that to our situation? He took some principles from the passage that we can use in determining what to partake in and what not to partake in. Firstly, there's the theological principle, which is that we ought to seek to glorify God. So in everything we do, whatever we eat, whatever we drink, we should seek to glorify God. Whatever we partake in general, I think even it applies to entertainment, music, movies, whatever you watch. You ought to, again, I'll speak for myself, I ought to seek to glorify God in all the entertainment I consume. In verses 25 and 26, he says, "Eat whatever is sold in the meat market without raising any question on the ground of conscience, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." And in verse 30, he says, "If I partake with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of that for which I give thanks?" I feel like the principle there is that everything that we enjoy was made by God. So if we acknowledge that and enjoy and glorify Him for that, take music, for example. Even if a song is, by a secular artist or something and maybe has theologically incorrect lyrics, we can still enjoy the music because music is a creation of God's, and music is beautiful and enjoyable. That's why I listen to secular music, and you'll hear secular music in this podcast. I do admit I have not in the past done a very good job of clarifying that I don't agree with the lyrics of most of the music I listen to, but I'm doing that now. I listen to the music for the melodies, the harmonies, and the instruments, and the chord progressions, and all that. That's the part of the music I like. So I often don't even talk about the lyrics because I don't necessarily listen to music for the lyrics. If I do, then I will point out the lyrics, but for the most part, I enjoy music for the music because music is God's. So that's the theological principle. Then there's the sociological principle, which is that, in verse 32, he says, "Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God." So the idea is that, we want to be kind to people and not overly critical and overly judgmental. We don't want the church to have a reputation of, it has a reputation of, finding the bad in everything, but we shouldn't, as individuals. People should see us as kind and happy. We should be joyful people. And then that leads into the next principle, which is the evangelical principle. Our relationship with people we should be trying to lead people to Jesus. So by glorifying God in everything that we do, everything that we enjoy, we should be showing people that our joy is in Christ. So whether we enjoy music or food or drinks, whatever we enjoy it for the sake of God, and that should inspire people to wonder what it is about God that we enjoy, and it can provide evangelical opportunities. And the last principle comes from chapter 11, verse 1, which is what Jonathan calls the Christological principle. where Paul says, "Be imitators of me as I am of Christ." In other words, be imitators of Christ. Ultimately, it comes down to knowing Christ, knowing him personally, and having a personal relationship with him, because you can't imitate him if you don't know him. So what it comes down to is just growing closer to Christ and having a relationship with him. That's how you'll know what to do when asking yourself if something is okay or not to enjoy. So moving on to the rest of the week, not much to say about the week other than on Wednesday I attended, my church does a midweek Bible study every other, like the first and third Wednesdays of the month, I believe. So I attended the midweek Bible study, and Jonathan is going through the Beatitudes. So I missed the first one because I was on vacation, but this week he talked about the second Beatitude, which is blessed are those who mourn. He talked about what it means to mourn, the difference between, worldly sorrow and spiritual mourning. Then also the blessings that come with sorrow. Sorrow draws us away from sin. If we are sorrowful about our sin, then we will be more drawn to Christ. It's just a good study. I didn't take very good notes on, but other than that, on Friday I went to Shakespeare's with Mike, and that's always a good time. And on Saturday I went over to my parents' house and we had a fire in the backyard, and yeah. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight the rest of the artists I picked for this week. The first one is a Chillhop artist named Stan Forebee. His real name is actually Bastian van der Vliest. He was born in the Netherlands, but he lives in Melbourne, Australia. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that it's kind of a running joke that all the best artists come from Australia. So it was pretty funny to learn that even Stan Forebee comes from Australia. But he's a Chillhop artist, so he does a lot of lo-fi hip-hop and has a lot of jazz influences in his music. One of the first songs I heard by him is called New Generation from his album Jazz Sessions. And it has a really interesting chord progression. It starts out with like a slow jazz loop with some, I think, harmonica. I don't really know what the instrument is, but it also has saxophone, and then the hip hop beat comes in, and at one point there's some keys and some synth. So just a really great track overall. The next song is Introspection from his album Retrospection. This just has a really gentle, thoughtful piano in it. It's a really relaxing song. At one point, some light guitar strums come in, and you hear some quiet strings in the background. So yeah, just a really nice, relaxing track. Also from that album, I like the song Mood Swings. I actually used this song as the intro music for a podcast I did with my friend Martin called Eyepiece back in 2018. It's got a nice swinging beat and some cool piano and saxophone. The first half has this great organ and some synth. and in the second half there it's mostly piano, and that sounds pretty cool. So those were the songs that kind of introduced me to Stan Forebee, but I also like some of his older stuff, like the song Apple Juice, which I think is one of his first songs that he released. There's a really cool part in the middle of this song where there's like some Rhodes chords and a synth that kind of slides down and slides back up. I really like the sound of it, and it's just a cool kind of chill vibe. He released an album called Monthly Monday Series, which has the song Night Swim. This one has some kind of mysterious vibes to it, and I love the bass drum. At one point it like changes pitch, and like the bass drum is kind of an instrument itself, and it sounds pretty cool. And then it's just nice and chill in the second half of the song. And my favorite song from that album is called Chasing Flies. This is just like a fantastic trip hop track. There's some really sick bass in the second half. Just like really cool kind of electronic bass. And then from the EP Silhouettes, I like the song L-U-M, or Lum, or Loom, I don't know how it's pronounced. It's the letters L-U-M. I also used this in the podcast I did with Martin, and it's another just kind of trip hop sounding track, and just has a really cool beat and cool instruments in it. And also from that EP, I like the song Look Back. I think I used this in the podcast as well. It's a very chill track. It has some nice chimes in the middle, and they come back at the end as well. One of my favorite songs by Stan Forebee is called Unwritten, and this one just also has a trip hop sound, and I love the piano chords in this, and when the vocals come in, it's just absolutely gorgeous. In the second half, there's like some background vocals that are really beautiful, and the melody in the vocals is just outstanding. And then one of his more recent tracks is called Maple Leaves. He actually released this one for Chillhop music. It's got like an awesome shuffling beat, really pretty melodies. Some parts remind me a little bit of the artist C418.
What are you doing, man? We gotta kick a beat or what?
We're gonna kick the beat. We're gonna kick the
Yo,
ill
we'll
beat.
drop it.
The next artist is also a chill hop artist. His name is Teddy Roxpin. I think that's actually his name. I tried to find out if that was a like stage name or if it's his real name, and it seems like that's his real name. He does music for chill hop music. One of his albums I like is called Chillhop Beat Tapes, Teddy Roxpin. I like the song Oh Let's Ride from that album. Really funky, nice bass. and nice use of vocal samples. He does a lot of like vocal sampling and kind of record scratches and stuff. And this song also has some nice saxophone. So next song I like is called Funky Record. As the name suggests, it's pretty funky. And it has some really nice flute samples. And of course, some nice saxophone. He did a song on this album with an artist called named Felty. And the track is called One for Mac. I love the sort of repeating saxophone loop in this, and at some points in the song there's this really pretty melody in the background. And then the last song from that album that I want to spotlight is called Nightcrawler. This one's kind of spooky sounding. I listen to a lot of sort of spooky sounding music in the fall just because it's, spooky season. Halloween is coming up, so this song definitely has some kind of spooky, dark, mysterious vibes. There's like a droning note that plays throughout the track that really gives it that kind of dark, mysterious vibe. This artist collaborates with another artist named Smile High a lot. My first exposure to this artist was actually their album Endless Beginnings, which he did with the artist Smile High. I like the song Odyssey, which just has like a groovy beat and some more record scratching, which sounds really cool. And just some nice piano and synth licks throughout. There's a song called, I don't know how it's pronounced, Leches on the Menge. I think that's how it's pronounced. This one's super chill and laid back. Has some really pretty piano and some guitar. There's a cool moment when the saxophone comes in. And then I really like the guitar playing towards the end of the track. And then I like the song Ruminate from that album. Just has like a bouncy beat, some nice piano and record scratching. There's a funny moment in this song where you can hear someone in the background going, whoops. Like, I don't know if that was, somebody accidentally, messed up what they were doing or whatever, but just funny to hear in the background. So, whoops. And then I like the song Rowan Gardner from that album. Just has some really pretty background vocals. The vocals are especially highlighted at the end of the track. So last year, Teddy Roxpin did another album with Smile High and Felty, who is another artist that he's collaborated with a lot. They released an album called Snack Pack, and I just love the opening track to that album. It's called Between the Silence. It just has an amazingly beautiful chord progression. I was really blown away when I first heard this song. And just has a nice chill beat, and yeah, I love it. And then another song from this album I like is called Sidestep. This one's pretty groovy sounding, has some nice synthy bass in it. And there's a cool guitar section towards the end with some nice synth stabs that sound really cool. Yeah, and the next artist is one that I've actually talked about before. His name is Kiefer, and he does a lot of... He's not actually a Chillhop music artist, but he does do lo-fi hip-hop music. One of the songs I like by him is called... I don't know how to say this. It's 5 A's. The song is called A. And it's from the album Happy Sad. It's crazy in this song how the bass like goes from like playing high notes and then kind of swoops down to playing super low notes. I love the effect that has. When the piano comes in, it's really nice. There's a lot of piano in Kiefer's music. He does a lot of jazzy, like improvisation piano samples. That's one of the reasons I love his music. I love the song "And Encourage Others" from the album Super Bloom. Just a really beautiful piano piece with some really soft like synth bass and some quiet drums. It's just really relaxing. Just a really nice like background piece to kind of chill to. And then there's a nice track called Superhero, which is he released as a single in 2021. It's got a beautiful piano melody, some lovely jazz improvisation as always, and just a nice synth melody and some background vocals towards the end. Also that year he released an album called When There's Love Around, and I love the track Lift Somebody Up, which he collaborated with an artist, Josh Johnson. This one's got some nice saxophone. It plays really nicely with the piano and the bass. It just sounds like a straight up jazz track. It's very jazzy, especially like with all the improvisation in the second half of the song. So I discovered an album that he released called Kickin' It Alone. He actually released this back in 2017, but somehow I didn't discover it until last year. But I love the song Tube Socks from that album. It's got a nice slow beat, a cool guitar loop, and some nice jazzy piano. And then also from that album, I like the song $5,000 Check. This is kind of glitchy sounding. It's got some cool percussion in it, and there's some nice Rhodes piano and some moments with some cool synth throughout. A really good song on this album is called Ghosted. It opens with some wood creaking sound effects and some kind of backwards piano. Kind of has a spooky vibe, which fits with the title Ghosted, and then the beat comes in, and then you hear some nice synth. of sounds like an old like SNES video game. It's really nostalgic, because I grew up playing SNES, so it makes me think of playing in the basement, playing Super Mario World and those games and stuff. And then, it wouldn't be a Kiefer song without some jazzy piano that comes in halfway through the song. And then I like the song Happy Sad Sunday. It's funny how Happy Sad keeps coming up, because last week I recorded an episode with Jeremy Morris, and he has a song called Happy Sad. And then you have this artist who has an album called Happy Sad and a song called Happy Sad Sunday. I just found that kind of funny. But yeah, this one has an awesome beat and with some nice low bass and just really pretty piano. Last year, Kiefer released an album called It's Okay, Be You. I love the song My Disorder from that. It's a really intense, kind of frantic sounding track. It's got an intense beat and some distorted bass. Just really, I don't know what disorder in particular the title is referring to, but you definitely get the vibe when you listen to this track that it's like, it's some disorder. And then the last song by this artist I want to spotlight is called Glowing, which is a collaboration with an artist named Pira Kirstajic. I don't know how it's pronounced, but yeah, it's just a very chill track with some awesome bass and some pretty synth. There's some shimmering bells that come in at one point, and it give it kind of like a kind of outer spacey sort of vibe. Especially in the outro, it just sounds like you're kind of chilling out in space. And the final artist I want to spotlight is named Kenny Segal. He's another lo-fi hip-hop artist, and I love the song Debushy from his album Happy Little Trees. It's a really happy-sounding track. It's pretty peaceful and has some soft piano in it and some cool jazzy saxophone. And then I also like the song. There's a lot of hard to pronounce songs from these artists. This one is spelled Lollllbye. I don't know, lullaby, I guess is how you would pronounce it. From the album Indoors. It's kind of an eerie vibe to it, kind of eerie piano and some cool bass. The piano kind of reminds me of the soundtrack to Nightmare Ned, the computer game, which is another nostalgic game for me. I played Nightmare Ned all throughout my childhood. There's a track on that in that game called Attic, Basement, and Beyond that if you look that up on YouTube, the piano in this just kind of reminds me of the piano in that song. And then another song from that album is called OSKMDTB. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I think he just like smashed his keyboard or something when he titled this song. This one's really trippy sounding. A lot of Kenny Segal's songs are really trippy and kind of dark sounding. There's like a upright bass loop playing throughout that's playing seems like random notes. And then every so often this like discordant flute comes in. It just sounds really really trippy. That's the best word I can use to describe it. maybe Jeremy Morris would use the word freaky. But yeah, and then he releases these albums called Kenstrumentals. He's released a few volumes of these Kenstrumentals. From volume 2, I like the song Worlds to Run. It's got a nice slow beat, nice guitar loop, and there's some cool trumpet sections in the second half that I like. And then also from the Kenstrumentals Volume 2, I like the song Back from the Flu. This just got like a trippy intro and an awesome beat. There's some kind of Boards of Canada-esque synth in the second half. I don't know, it just reminds me a little bit of something Boards of Canada would do. And from Volume 3 of the Kenstrumentals series, I like the song Nah Yeah. It's got a groovy beat and some cool bass. I don't know what else to say. It's just a nice track. By far my favorite track by Kenny Segal is from Kenstrumentals Volume 4, the song Elaine. It's just such an awesome beat, just an incredible dark sounding bass. I love the flute sample that loops throughout the track and the quick little vocal sample that pops up every so often. And then I like the song, this is the last one I'll spotlight by Kenny Segal. It's called Down, also from Volume 4. It's got a slow piano loop, but a fast beat. And then there's this cool glitchy violin loop that comes in. So I have a couple of bonus artists that I'm going to spotlight, just a couple more songs. The first artist is called Jefferson Park Boys. Kenny Segal is actually in this band, but they only have one album called Casual Horns Dog. And I like the song Pasta Boys from that album. It's just, got some awesome record scratching throughout and a cool beat and just some nice bass playing in it. But yeah, I just found out that Kenny Segal is actually part of that band. I didn't even know. And the next bonus song is called Still Sleeping by Odyssey. This is from The Odd Tape by that artist. It's just a very nice piano loop, and this awesome beat comes in with some beautiful trumpets. For some reason, I listen to a lot of lo-fi hip-hop in the fall and a lot of jazzy, hip-hop music. So throughout the season, you'll hear a lot of hip-hop artists and a lot of jazz influences. So expect more of that. That's it for this week. Stay tuned. There will be more fall vibes to come. Next week, my friend Ben will join me on the podcast, and we've got some great artists that we'll discuss in that episode. But until then, check the description of this video. You'll be able to listen to both of the sermons that Jonathan preached last week, and you'll also be able to download this episode if you want to listen to it on the go. And you'll also see a link to the Spotify playlist, which will have all the songs that I recommended in this episode. So if you want to just kind of, listen to all the songs in one go, you can check them all out in the Spotify playlist. And I'll link to whatever else I want to share in the description. So always check the description for more goodies. Other than that, everybody have a good week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.